Don't believe the hype about BRICS being just an economic forum. Putin's digital ruble and the $47 trillion payment system that's about to bypass America entirely. At 9:15 a.m. on October 23, 2025, central bank governors from 34 countries gathered in Kazan for what Russian media called a routine monetary policy coordination meeting. Within 18 hours, they had signed agreements establishing the BRICS Plus Cross-Border Payment System, a digital currency network capable of processing $2.8 trillion in annual trade without touching a single US dollar. But here's what most analysts missed. This wasn't about creating an alternative currency. This wasn't even about challenging dollar dominance, despite the financial headlines. This was about constructing parallel economic infrastructure that makes Western sanctions irrelevant. And if you think this is just Putin and Xi playing geopolitical games, I'm going to show you why this might be the most consequential monetary revolution since Bretton Woods. I've spent years analyzing payment system development, and what we're witnessing through BRICS Plus isn't economic cooperation. It's financial architecture designed to operate completely outside American oversight. The numbers tell the story. In 2009, BRICS countries represented 18.6% of global GDP. By 2024, that figure hit 35.2%. Today, BRICS Plus includes Russia, China, India, Brazil, South Africa, Iran, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Ethiopia, with 24 additional countries holding observer status. Combined GDP, $47.3 trillion. That's larger than the G7's $44.1 trillion. Let me put that another way. For every dollar of economic activity controlled by America's traditional allies, BRICS Plus now controls 1.07, but GDP statistics are abstractions. Let me show you what this looks like on the ground. In August 2024, China and Russia completed the first $50 billion yuan ruble digital transaction using quantum-encrypted blockchain technology that bypasses the SWIFT banking system entirely. This isn't some experimental cryptocurrency. We're talking about a central bank digital currency, CBDC, network capable of processing 1.2 million transactions per second with settlement times under 3 seconds and transaction costs 97% lower than traditional correspondent banking. The Chinese call it the new Silk Road of money. Russian officials describe it as financial sovereignty infrastructure. Here's the significance. Traditional international payments require correspondent banks in New York or London to validate and clear transactions, giving American and British authorities visibility into virtually all global trade flows. BRICS Plus CBDCs eliminate this choke point entirely. When India buys oil from Russia, when Brazil sells soybeans to China, when UAE trades gold with Iran, these transactions now flow through infrastructure that American financial intelligence cannot monitor, control, or sanction. But digital payments are just the visible infrastructure. Let me tell you about the invisible kind. Saudi Arabia has established the Riyadh Commodity Exchange, trading oil, gas, and petrochemicals in yuan, rubles, and a basket of BRICS Plus currencies rather than dollars. Daily trading volume reached $340 billion by December 2025. They've built physical delivery networks that bypass traditional energy trading hubs in London and New York. When Saudi Aramco sells crude to China National Petroleum Corporation, the transaction settles in digital yuan without a dollar ever changing hands. Iran has developed what they call sanctions-resistant supply chains, integrated networks of production, transportation, and payment systems that operate entirely within BRICS Plus economies. Iranian oil exports to China increased 480% in 2025, all priced and settled in yuan. Iranian manufactured goods flow to Russia through railway corridors that never touch Western territory. Iranian banks clear payments through Russian and Chinese financial institutions that have zero exposure to American monetary oversight. They now call it the Parallel Economy Doctrine. BRICS Plus strategy to create complete economic ecosystems that function independently of Western-dominated systems. Let me break down what this parallel economy doctrine actually means in practice. First, resource denomination becomes a weapon of monetary warfare. When Saudi Arabia prices oil in yuan rather than dollars, it forces oil importers to hold Chinese currency rather than American currency. When Russia sells grain in rubles, food importers must acquire Russian currency. When Brazil sells iron ore in reais, steel manufacturers must hold Brazilian currency. The cumulative effect is that global central banks diversify away from dollar reserves toward BRICS plus currency baskets. Second, technological standards become tools of economic sovereignty. BRICS plus countries have developed their own alternatives to Western technology platforms. Russia's SPFS instead of SWIFT, China's CIPS instead of Fedwire, India's UPI instead of Visa, MasterCard. These aren't just backup systems. They're fully functional alternatives that process billions in daily transactions. When Western sanctions target Russian banks, Russian payments simply flow through Chinese systems. When American pressure targets Chinese technology, Chinese infrastructure routes through Russian networks. Third, commodity trading hubs redistribute economic power geographically. Traditional commodity exchanges in London, New York, and Chicago have dominated global price discovery for decades. BRICS Plus has created competing exchanges in Shanghai, Dubai, Moscow, and Mumbai that now handle 43% of global commodity transactions. These exchanges use local currencies, follow local regulations, and operate during Asian time zones when Western markets are closed. Fourth, development financing provides alternatives to Western-dominated institutions. The new development bank has disbursed $75 billion in infrastructure loans since 2020, all denominated in local currencies rather than dollars. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank has committed $180 billion to projects across 78 countries. These institutions offer developing countries access to capital without IMF conditionality, World Bank oversight, or dollar-denominated debt obligations. So where does this lead? Let me walk you through the pressure points that could trigger complete financial system bifurcation. The energy payments revolution. Energy transactions represent $4.8 trillion annually in global commerce, roughly 6% of total economic activity. BRICS plus countries control 47% of global oil production and 52% of natural gas reserves. When energy pricing shifts from dollars to BRICS plus currencies, it forces every energy importer to make a choice: maintain access to energy supplies or maintain alignment with Western financial systems. That choice becomes impossible for countries like Germany, Japan, and South Korea, which depend on BRICS plus energy but operate within American financial architecture. The rare earth processing monopoly represents a different leverage point. China processes 87% of global rare earth elements. Russia controls 13% of global titanium production, and Brazil holds 18% of global iron ore reserves. These materials are required inputs for every advanced technology, from semiconductors to electric vehicle batteries to military equipment. When BRICS Plus demands payment in local currencies for these materials, Western manufacturers face a choice: accept BRICS Plus payment terms or find alternative suppliers that don't exist. But let me walk you through three specific scenarios that could accelerate dollar displacement. Scenario 1, the oil settlement cascade. By March 2026, Saudi Arabia announces that 60% of oil exports will be priced in yuan, citing currency diversification for financial stability. Within 6 weeks, UAE, Kuwait, and Iraq follow suit to remain competitive. Oil importers, including Japan, South Korea, and Germany, begin accumulating yuan reserves to pay for energy. the dollar's share of global central bank reserves drops from 58% to 45% within 18 months as energy importing countries reduce dollar holdings. American Treasury bond auctions begin failing as foreign demand collapses. Scenario 2, the commodity trading exodus. China announces that all imports of soybeans, iron ore, and copper must be paid for in yuan or acceptable alternative currencies, excluding dollars. Brazil, Australia, and Chile face a choice: maintain access to their largest export market or preserve alignment with Western financial systems. All three countries establish yuan clearing banks and begin pricing commodities in Chinese currency. The London Metal Exchange and Chicago Mercantile Exchange lose 70% of trading volume to Shanghai and Dubai exchanges. Dollar-denominated commodity contracts become irrelevant as physical delivery requires non-dollar payment. Scenario 3, the technology payment blockade. Russia and China announce joint development of quantum-resistant payment protocols that make Western financial surveillance impossible. Iran, North Korea, and other sanctioned countries adopt these protocols immediately. Non-aligned countries, including Turkey, Egypt, and Mexico, begin using BRICS Plus payment systems for transactions that American authorities might find politically objectionable. Within 2 years, 40% of global trade flows through payment channels that American intelligence cannot monitor. Western sanctions become unenforceable because target countries operate in financial systems beyond Western control. Here's the question everyone should be asking: what happens when parallel becomes primary? And the answer is brutally simple. America discovers whether military power translates into monetary relevance. Dollar dominance isn't maintained through economic efficiency. It's maintained through network effects and institutional momentum. When more than half of global GDP operates through non-dollar payment systems, network effects favor alternative currencies. When major commodity producers price goods in local currencies, institutional momentum shifts toward currency diversification. The dollar remains important but loses its decisive advantage. That transition forces America into an impossible choice: accept reduced monetary influence and the corresponding loss of geopolitical leverage, or escalate pressure on BRICS Plus countries to maintain dollar dependency. Escalation could include secondary sanctions on any country using BRICS Plus payment systems, military pressure on energy producers to maintain dollar pricing, or technological warfare targeting alternative payment infrastructure. But escalation risks accelerating the very process it's designed to prevent. When America threatens countries for using alternative payment systems, it provides those countries with additional incentive to develop sanctions-resistant infrastructure. When America pressures allies to avoid BRICS Plus systems, it forces allies to choose between American demands and economic necessity. We're already seeing this escalation playbook. Hours after Saudi Arabia announced yuan oil pricing, the U.S. Treasury designated the Riyadh Commodity Exchange as an entity of concern subject to enhanced monitoring. When Germany's largest bank opened yuan clearing facilities, American regulators launched investigations into potential sanctions violations. When Brazil joined the BRICS Plus payment network, the Federal Reserve restricted Brazilian banks' access to dollar clearing systems. This is the escalation trap, monetary addition. America escalates pressure to maintain dollar dominance. BRICS Plus countries develop more sophisticated alternatives to escape pressure. America escalates further to counter alternatives. Each action justifies the other. Each response accelerates financial system bifurcation. The psychological dynamics create additional complications. BRICS Plus leaders have experienced decades of American economic pressure and developed institutional paranoia about dollar dependency. When America uses financial sanctions for geopolitical purposes, it confirms BRICS Plus suspicions that dollar dominance is a weapon rather than a utility. When America threatens countries for developing alternatives, it validates the necessity of alternatives. Consider the feedback loop this creates. American pressure justifies alternative development. Alternative development reduces American leverage. Reduced leverage increases American pressure. The cycle continues until either America accepts reduced influence or BRICS Plus countries achieve complete financial independence. Neither outcome seems politically acceptable to American leadership. The domestic political implications compound the problem. American voters have been told for decades that dollar dominance provides economic advantages, including cheaper imports, easier government financing, and enhanced geopolitical leverage. When those advantages disappear gradually through BRICS Plus development, politicians face pressure to restore them through aggressive action. But aggressive action accelerates the loss of advantages it's designed to preserve. International institutional capture provides BRICS Plus with additional leverage. The International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and Bank for International Settlements were designed when Western economies dominated global GDP. As economic power shifts toward BRICS Plus countries, these institutions face pressure to accommodate non-Western preferences or risk irrelevance. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa now hold enough voting shares in international financial institutions to block American proposals they oppose. The technological dimension adds complexity that monetary economists often ignore. Central bank digital currencies aren't just electronic versions of existing money. They're programmable currencies that can include smart contracts, automatic settlement mechanisms, and privacy protections that paper money cannot provide. BRICS Plus CBDCs offer superior functionality compared to traditional dollar-based payment systems. When technical superiority combines with political necessity, adoption becomes inevitable. Countries don't choose BRICS Plus payment systems because they oppose America. They choose them because they work better, cost less, and provide protection from external pressure. The dollar loses market share to superior technology rather than political competition. What comes next depends entirely on timing. If Western economies grow faster than BRICS Plus economies and American technology maintains superiority over alternatives, dollar dominance could persist despite BRICS Plus development. But if economic growth favor BRICS Plus countries and alternative technologies achieve functionality parity, dollar displacement could accelerate beyond American ability to prevent. The window for maintaining dollar primacy closes gradually, then suddenly. Every month of BRICS Plus development makes alternative systems more attractive. Every quarter of American financial pressure creates additional incentive for alternatives. The Parallel Economy Doctrine assumes Western resistance can be overcome through patient infrastructure development rather than dramatic confrontation. Financial revolutions happen slowly, then all at once. Currency dominance shifts through millions of individual decisions to reduce exposure to political risk. Every Chinese company that accepts yuan instead of dollars, every Russian bank that clears rubles through Beijing, every Saudi oil sale priced in alternative currencies reduces demand for dollars and dollar-denominated assets. Let me leave you with one final thought. The Parallel Economy Doctrine represents the ultimate test of American financial hegemony, whether monetary dominance can survive the development of superior alternatives. But mathematical reality suggests that hegemony has limits. No currency in history has maintained dominance when the economies using it represent a minority of global GDP. The British pound lost reserve currency status when British economic output fell below American output. The dollar gained dominance when American GDP exceeded British GDP. Today, BRICS Plus GDP exceeds Western GDP for the first time since the Industrial Revolution. America may be different. Military supremacy and technological leadership provide advantages that previous hegemons lacked. dollar-denominated debt held by foreign countries creates stakeholders in dollar stability that didn't exist during previous currency transitions. American capital markets offer depth and liquidity that alternative currencies cannot yet match. But advantages aren't guarantees. Military supremacy costs money that deficit spending makes increasingly expensive. Technological leadership requires investment that economic competitors can match through collective effort. Capital market depth depends on foreign participation that political pressure could drive away. The Parallel Economy Doctrine bets everything on a single proposition. Economic infrastructure can be duplicated and improved through patient development and technological innovation. If that bet succeeds, future historians will study BRICS plus financial development as proof that monetary dominance isn't permanent. If it fails, they'll study it as evidence that network effects and institutional momentum make currency displacement impossible. The stakes couldn't be higher, the timeline couldn't be shorter, and the outcome depends entirely on whether economic laws or political power ultimately determine monetary dominance. One thing I know for sure, this story is just beginning. The infrastructure is spreading, the alternatives are multiplying, and somewhere in central bank computer systems across 34 countries, the mathematics of monetary displacement is calculating exactly when parallel becomes primary. The Parallel Economy Doctrine has weaponized patience, but patience doesn't guarantee victory. It only guarantees change.